Open the Big Game Hunter, and I'm back with another episode of Career Coach Office Hours, as I do on Tuesdays at noon Eastern Time. What I do on this is really very simple. What I try and do is answer questions from people about their job search, about hiring more effectively, managing and leading, dealing with workplace related issues, so that in this way, you've got some guidance from someone who's been in the career field for a long time. My own background, I worked in search for more than 40 years. I filled more than 1,200 full time positions plus consulting assignments. I've written at this point 10 books about job search and hiring, books and guides. Some of them are shorter works. Um, 8 of these are currently available. Several have been taken off the market because they're out of date and I didn't want anyone buying obsolete information. So I'm reworking some of the material in those. It's not going to be ready until next year at the earliest. But the goal here is to have an ally as part of your career planning. And, again, my background starts in search. I'm also an MSW from Fordham, did postgraduate psychoanalytic training. I have some perspectives on careers that are a little bit different than the conventional wisdom because I listen to people. It's not book learning, it's information that helps people in their day to day lives. And I try and take complex ideas and make them fairly easy to follow. Now, if you have a question for me today and you're watching this, you can just put it into chat and I'll try and get to it. If not, I'm going to be back Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern for another episode. You can send an email to me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. And, I would appreciate it in the subject line, put the phrase office hours. So this way I know what it's about. Okay? So I have a number of questions. I didn't count them in advance, but it looks like 10 or 11 questions. 10 questions, I think, plus an insider tip that I'm going to do in a little bit. So the first question is, how can I reach recruiters in finance? Well, LinkedIn is a great tool for that. But the question comes down to is that do they want to be reached to? Do they want to be contacted? Now, most of the time, what recruiters want are people who fill jobs. They're not working for you for free. What they're trying to do is find you. So start off with the premise of having a great LinkedIn profile. That's going to make recruiters want to find you for that which you're capable of performing. Make sure the profile is keyword rich. Make sure your resume is congruent with that LinkedIn profile. And if you want to connect with them, by all means, search for recruiters on LinkedIn who specialize in finance. Reach out to them, ideally in your geographic area. And if not, be clear to them that you're willing to relocate there. Ideally, at your own expense is going to be their preference because their corporate clients are going to want them, are going to try and minimize costs per hire, and they've got an agency fee to pay as well as a relocation. So you can find them on LinkedIn and send them a message and very simply say, this is a quick synopsis of my background. This is a link to my LinkedIn profile. Do you have something that might fit me at this time? If not, would you like a resume for inventory? I'd be happy to forward it. That's simple. So, and if you're looking at an executive search level, that is your very senior individual, I'd be surprised that you're reaching out to me. Those folks clearly do not want to be getting unsolicited resumes. And the truth of the matter is, LinkedIn is everyone's database these days. Everyone has access to the entire thing as long as they're willing to pay for the entire database. Remember, LinkedIn has a product called LinkedIn Recruiter that gives people the ability to search the database and to message you. So it all starts with your profile. Don't spam resumes gratuitously. I used to hate it when I'd walk in on Monday morning to over 200 resumes, of which at best 2 might vaguely fit what I was looking for my clients. The rest were all spam. So make it easy. Just message them through LinkedIn. Make sure your profile has been updated and is accurate, is keyword rich for your expertise. That's really going to be your launch point. Okay? What two common interview questions feel most like a trap? The answer is every interview question is a trap. What's the trap? A trap is something that allows you to put your foot in your mouth and come across as being an idiot. Every question using that definition is a trap. And I know from my experience doing search, I listen to people give the most imbecilic answers, in response to fairly simple questions. Tell me about what you did on that project. And they really couldn't, which is kind of shocking because this is ostensibly what they did every day at work. So understand everything is a potential trap question. And you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be well rehearsed, well practiced, ready to roll. One of the ways you can do this, and excuse me if I give a little bit of a commercial here, I've got two things that make sense. One is there's a framework for interviewing that I have available in video form at thebiggamehunter.us/interviews, and it's called the Ultimate Job Interview Framework. It's available through Udemy currently, and it will teach you a framework for interviewing that's going to make you far more effective. If you want good answers to tough interview questions, you can order my book on Amazon called The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions. It's about 150 to 200 pages of information with answers to interview questions that you can go through and practice with and know that you have the right answer to those questions. So the first one, the video course, is also available as a book on Amazon, just as is The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions. I think the two books pair together well, but if you're a video learner, I think ordering my video course will serve you very well. So with that, I'm going to pause for a second and do my insider tip for this show. And that's interviewing is a sales process. When most people think of sales, they're thinking aggressive, pushy, obnoxious sales. And that's not what I'm talking about. Being an effective salesperson involves connecting with the person that you're talking with and demonstrating how you offer a solution to something that they need. I'm listened to or re-listened to an interview I did several years ago with someone, and they spoke about, and I countered it, about it being a sales process, and I countered it by saying it's more of a farming process. It's a relationship process, and it starts with the assumption that if you have an interview with someone, they see you as a possible solution to their problem. And your goal is to demonstrate it to them in a way that they can receive the information. Catch that one. Your job is to demonstrate it to them in a way that that they can receive the information from you. And I say that because if you drone on and on and on ad infinitum about what you've done previously, you're making them listen much longer than most people are capable of doing. So keep your answers to a minute and 15 seconds to any question and invite them to say, if you like, I can go into more detail with you, which pauses and allows them to tell you, no, I got what I needed. Or it gives you the ability to say, yes, I'd like to know more about this specific part of it. Or yes, I'd like to know more about it. And that serves you much better than just assuming that you know what they want and then over talking and losing your audience. Okay? Let me go back to questions. What do recruiters look for when seeking candidates to fill a role? How can a person increase their chances of being selected? What recruiters, either corporate or third-party recruiters whether corporate or third-party recruiters are looking for are people with, number one, the skills needed to perform the job. Thus, your resume and LinkedIn profile have to demonstrate that to them. That's number one. How can you increase your chances of being chosen? Make the fit obvious to them, as though a 6 year old is reading the resume, because the fact of the matter is everyone's busy and they don't want to go to page 3 to find relevant information. They're never going to page 3. Make it prominent within no more than one page down when they're looking at something on their screen, so that in this way they know that you can do this job. And if you're applying through an applicant tracking system, I always encourage people to make page 1 of the resume the cover letter, and to use a format for cover letters that some people call it a T-square. There are other names for it, but it's the idea on page 1 you list the requirements of the position and the functionality of the role, and demonstrate how long and how recently you've done it. So let's say if you're a developer, and you indicate a particular technical skill, flush left, it's in the job description or in the ad. Flush right, you talk about how long and how recently you've done it. They're going to want you to do this. You put that in the flush left, flush right, how long and how recently. Omit things that you haven't done. Okay? And by making it page 1 on an application, and by the way, try to avoid applying for jobs just competing with too many people. The goal is to cut the line. But if you don't know how to do this, and you're going to apply, this is the way to do it. So page 1 of the resume is stuffed with relevant keywords, which makes the applicant tracking system think of you as a better fit. How do I increase the chances of being called for a job interview? It's really the same question in a different way. So this is about the resume or about the LinkedIn profile. Too many people spam resumes. They send the same resume to every job that's posted on the web, and they think this is going to work for them. The broken watch is right twice a day, and your resume will get some interviews, but most of the time is not going to get a call for you. You're dealing with busy people and with technology that's designed to help them. Some people will say it misses a lot of stuff. I'm not going to argue that. That's really irrelevant. Make the fit obvious to a system and to a person that you have the required experience and the required background for the role, and you have a much better chance of being chosen. What are the mistakes job seekers make with their resume templates? The answer is using a resume template. Resume templates can be problematic because when I think of someone using a template, I think of someone who's less experienced, because more experienced people will never use a template. You can use the format of the template. That's perfectly fine. But to use an actual template, not good, because a lot of the applicant tracking systems have trouble digesting templates because they use frames, and these systems struggle with frames. So the mistake is just using a template, and thus, in recreating a template, the mistake people make with their resume, as I said before, it's not making the fit obvious to someone who'd be reading the resume that your background can do, allows you to be able to perform what they need you to do. Okay, let's switch gears for a second, and I have 2 questions about hiring. As an employer, does it make more sense to tell someone they didn't get the job you're hiring for, or not to tell them? Employers, recruiters find it difficult to say no to people because they're afraid of arguments. And thus, what they run into much too often are situations where people argue with them, I'm qualified, I can do this job. You didn't, or they didn't ask me about anything related to that because they'd already figured out that your experience wasn't relevant. So, what? Let me just come back to the question. I want to make sure So does it make more sense to tell the job hunter they didn't get the job or just ghost them? So I know most people don't want to be ghosted. They think it's rude, obnoxious, and they're right. I made the mistake of ghosting people back when I did search. I just didn't tell them because initially tech really wasn't available. I'd have to do it by phone and get into the arguments. And then one day I figured out I could send them an email. And as a recruiter, my email would say something to the effect of, you know, um, I heard back from my client with feedback about your interview, and unfortunately, you were not the person chosen. I'm going to continue to look for other things for you, but I want to give you the courtesy of letting you know that they chose someone else. Why'd they pick that person? They found that person to be a better fit. As a hiring manager, as a corporate or third party recruiter, sending a message along those lines by email or text is a big time saver because, as I illustrated, the follow up question is a gentle one. They chose someone else who fit what they perceived they needed more closely than you. Allows them to have a little bit of information and save some face at the same time while giving them the courtesy of being honest because this is an honest answer. And number two, um, it completes the cycle for them. It's also not going to put your firm in any serious jeopardy. Um, if they're going to continue interviewing, you can say, they're continuing to interview and they've told me they didn't find your background a tight enough fit with what their expectations were. So they're continuing to evaluate other people. I'm sorry you're not being chosen. Again, email, text, however you prefer, just communicate something to bring the cycle to a loop. And yes, it's easier to ghost someone, except if they start contacting you multiple times. Yes, if they do that by email, you can direct it to junk mail. But is that what you want to have happen to you when you go job hunting in the future? No. Message them, give them the courtesy of a response. Okay. Next question. Is it better to hire a CEO or to promote a person in your business into a CEO role? So if you're asking the question, it tells me that you don't believe your firm has a suitable internal individual to step up. There's also a risk, no matter which of these options you choose. If you have senior talent and they're all vying for the CEO role, it is likely that you will lose the other people once you've chosen one of them. Let's say there are two contenders, you choose one, you're going to lose the other. That internal person's going to know many of the operations of the firm, but you've lost the second one. In terms of going outside, if you haven't been clear to your people that you're not ready to promote into the CEO role and you're going to look outside, well, they too are going to go look elsewhere. And they should be able to get an idea for where the deficiencies are so that they can work to improve their capabilities. Ask for rotations into roles that will help strengthen them. They want to improve because they want to be a top dog. And you can say it may take a couple of years to get there. And how long this person's going to be in the role, we hope they're a smashing success. But in the meantime, we want to help you learn and grow and be able to step into a CEO role, whether with us or with someone else. I know a friend of mine sold his business and they promoted someone internally to CEO. It was important for them to have continuity. Once the former owner who functioned in that role was stepping away. As such, if you're a hiring authority, if you're an executive um, with an organization or within the HR organization trying to make recommendations, take all these factors into consideration and make the right call. I've got two more questions here about careers. Why is programming so high in demand, but so hard to get a programming job? That's easy. And I speak from a perspective of when I did search, almost everything I did was in technology. And as such, the real issue is how technology has evolved into such a segmented field. Segmented. So, for example, if you're looking for a developer, that's the job title. What kind of development? There are lots of different programming languages, right? And within those different programming languages, there's secondary and tertiary characteristics that or experiences that you want someone to have in order to be effective. The more the greater number of expectations that a firm has of someone, the more likely it is that it's going to be harder to find that person, the more that you're going to have to pay, et cetera, et cetera. So, why is it so difficult? Because it's not just a Java developer, it's a Java developer with secondary skills, it's a C sharp developer with secondary skills. There's people who manage Java developers who need to dive in to help. You get my point here? It's all the secondary expectations or requirements that make it so hard. And they're not portable from one technology to another in the thinking of these firms. So that's why it takes so long. How do I show a new employer gratitude? You know, when I think of answering this question, you're a new person on board in your first 90 days of joining. You're going to meet with your manager. And in meeting with the manager privately, somewhere along the line, you could say, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the opportunity you've given me here. And, I'm going to work hard and learn from you. And I just want you to know how grateful I am. If there's some issue that you're picking up with me, don't hesitate to come to me and talk with me about it. I know I want to help you look good. And thus, for me to know where I'm disappointing you is important because all I want to do is do excellent work for you. So, thank you for hiring me. I really appreciate it. And I don't want to let you down at any time. Okay. And that's a way that you can show gratitude in ways that a hiring manager will appreciate without going into, shall we say, suck up mode. So I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I'm back Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern for another episode of Career Coach Office Hours. Connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw this because I like knowing I'm helping people. And also visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's tons of great information in the blog that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you. In addition, I'll mention you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help. Hope you have a terrific day, and more importantly, be great. Take care.